academic achievement? How can teachers bring even more happiness into the classroom? This is the topic and this is the focus of today's panel discussion. And we are honored to have some amazing people with us to share their insight for even more happier schools and happier communities in our panel discussion. To facilitate this discussion, please welcome Dr. Sonia bin Jafar from Eduville Educational Consultancy. Thank you, Sonia, and it's over to you.
So I'm going to first welcome everyone, and then I will be welcoming our panelists to the stage. We'll first please welcome Sir Anthony Selden. He joined us from the UK, has some amazing insights into how happiness and well-being classes can be introduced into the school curriculum. So thank you. Join us. Would you like a ball or a bike? You can have whatever you want.
Well, I'm not tall enough to get on a, so I give one.
Okay. Our next speaker is Dr. K-Ping Heng from University of California, Berkeley, and also Tsinghua University, Beijing, where he leads the psychology department. He's a firm believer in positive education, and his research on cultural cognition and positive psychology has informed changes across Chinese schools. His current work includes the use of mobile technologies for schools to track happiness levels of students, and now, more significantly, it enables students to know their own levels of happiness. So, thank you.
I think I'm tall enough. I'm going to connect the bike.
Yes. I like the diversity.
It's okay? Yeah. Because nobody, I will take it.
Great. Our third panelist is Tay Lai Hoc, founder of Singapore's Ground Up Initiative. Tay believes that happiness starts from our connection with the ground, and its large Kampong campus in Singapore, students of all ages are given opportunities to help nurture nature. And experience learning is what is best described as a living classroom. So welcome. Thank you. Finally, we welcome Dr. Abdullah Al-Karam from KHDA, who will share his thoughts on how connecting, learning, and being happy is successfully happening in Dubai. You get a ball, no choice. I'm going to. Okay. Are we all comfortable?
Yes.
If you feel like biking, just go ahead and spin.
Okay.
All right. So the first thing that we're going to do is just trying to get a little bit on the same page about what we mean by well-being. So well-being is a holistic concept that aspires to a state of internal harmony where the body and mind are functioning well together and facilitate anything a person is trying to achieve. It enables us to want to make positive contributions from the greater good of humanities and Earth. And this is a combined definition from all of our panelists. There's really interesting morning conversations about some of the challenges of introducing this and making it something that's accepted amongst our school communities. And I think that's where we want to start, is in some ways what you're doing, all of you, is swimming upstream a little bit. And whenever somebody is swimming upstream, the first natural question is why? Why would you want to engage in something that is such a challenge, and what is it that motivated you and motivates you? And so we'll start with Dr. Pitt.
Yes, I think that there's three answers to these why questions. Number one, the world is changing, the school is changing, the student body is changing. And take China as example. China has this dramatic change from the developing country, a very poor country, to a modern, economical, industrialized countries. So the students are very different from the students 30 years ago, even 20 years ago. So So the parents are fed up with all the ways of teaching students about the tests, about the exams, about the competitions, about the hard workings. I mean, hard working is very important values, but it's just to spend too much time in school, and the suicide rate is just rising up rapidly. And the university, I'm teaching in the universities, we see these newcoming students, they have a very important, very difficult times to adjust to this new environment in the universities. So that's why we want to change the culture, we want to change the school, we want to change the atmospheres of the classrooms throughout China. So I think that the main reason is that people fed up with all the way of teaching students. So that's number one. And of course, China is opening up to the outside world. The multiculturalism is coming in. China is a multicultural society, and you cannot use the single ways, single mentalities to educate very diverse student populations. So that's second reason. So I think it's changing is the main reason that we want to do that in China.
Thank you. And I'll pass over to Taylor. Lai. Just Lai.
Lai.
Okay.
Lai means I arrive and come, and Hok means prosperity and fortune. So when I arrive, I bring prosperity and fortune.
I like it.
So yes.
So why? Because the Ground Up initiative is incredibly hands-on. It takes a lot of not only mental work, but physical work, and bringing everybody on board. So why?
Well, I did not start the Ground Up initiative or GUI in short to try to find happiness, honestly. I was a corporate man for 11 years in technology world, working for Silicon Valley in the last 3 years. And at the height of my career, I asked myself, what is the definition of being alive? If I die today, what will be the greatest regret of my life? So I went on to travel around the world for 4 years backpacking, 35 countries, 5 continents. And at the end of my last year, I was sitting in the Sahara Desert in Mauritania and Morocco, sitting for 2 months, and then I said I'm going back to Singapore to try to do something to help the population to be a risk taker and maybe try to educate them about the notion of creativity. But then I set on to do 5 years, and then while I was causing a little bit of ripple effect, I realized that my country, while we are becoming so rich, and you know Singapore is one of the richest countries in the world, and people are complaining a lot. People are extremely unhappy, and I was like, why are people so unhappy? In the happiness index, we are low down around. And then I had a chance to go to New Zealand for 5 months in the eco-villages, learning permaculture and sustainability. And then one day, sitting under the stars, I was like, voila! I realized that we progressed so fast in 50 years, we have lost that connection with the ground, the soil. And then I came across this verse by Leo Tolstoy to say that first condition of happiness is that the link between man and nature shall not be broken. And then I look at around Singapore, being such about 1/7 of Dubai, 5.5 million people packed in a very highly dense city. And then we have to be aspired to do many things, but because we lost the connection to the ground, we live in high-rise flats. And then I start to realize, and then I look around civilization, maybe there's some truth. I came back, I said, sustainable future needs a culture. And what is that culture? And I call it the 21st century kampong culture. Kampong is village for Malay language. And I went on to set on to do it. And then a few years later, more and more young people are coming to me. They say that they are not happy with their education system. They lost a lot of things. And then suddenly we are known to be a place to rediscover purpose and meaning. And that's how I end up today being here. So thank you very much.
Thank you. If I can go to Sir Anthony, I want to make a link because in his talk earlier today, he talked about being able to figure it out when you're still, and it sounds that that's exactly what happened. And jumping to him now and knowing that he was in a context of league tables and ridicule, why would you go through and push on in this endeavor?
Okay, so the answer is I can say things, but what's more valuable is what happens inside everybody in the audience. So if everybody in the audience closes their eyes and looks inside and sees see where you are now. Where are you now? What's filling the mind? What are the thoughts? What's emotionally, how are you feeling? How stressed, if at all, is your body? Are there aches and pains in the body? And just really keeping this quality of attention is really important, and it's something we're losing from education. So look really with attention inside everything about yourself. And now, guests, imagine yourself as you would like to be. Imagine your state of happiness, your state of harmony with your body. You've seen the Tai Chi there. Imagine your own state of bodiness, of harmony with your own body, with your family, colleagues, friends. Imagine yourself as on a journey to your dream. Imagine this best possible sense and hold that image and then compare it to how you are now. Compare to how you feel now in every way with how you would like to be. Now, if there is any difference, that is the answer to the question. The question is, why are we doing this? And we're doing this because we could, in all our individual lives, and in our professional lives, and in our personal lives, be very different to how we are. And if we can make ourselves and our schools much more like we would like that to be, then they will be far more effective places. They'll perform much better, much better. The children will do much better. And the schools will be lovely places of joy and delight and curiosity and laughter. And everyone will just love to be in those buildings. And we can do that. So the question was why? And the answer is because of the reality that we now have and the dream that we could have. And the gulf between those and the why is because of the necessity for us to make that journey if we wish.
Thank you. Now, I purposely asked Dr. question on our last because I feel that moving from China to the US and Singapore, where a lot of the work is being done, and the UK, these are all different contexts, and when you land in Dubai, it is such a unique context that encompasses all of them. And so pursuing well-being and happiness within an education context in Dubai, you know, where you are going upstream so many times, what is that little voice inside that's motivating you to do it differently?
Well, I think we're still currently working with the academic answer or why. But if I share the human answer, I think we've done so many things for so many different reasons as a team with the school. But there has not been one single thing that had so many reasons that we really want to do that there will be. I will not give you the 1,000 reasons why. I'll give you the 1,001 reasons why. And I think there's something I was inspired this morning listening to Anthony and Kevin talking about it. And I can summarize it basically, it's the story of every single individual in this room, or out there, all of us, is the story of the two wolves. The wolves. There are those two wolves that they are always fighting. When it is dark and despair, and the other one which is light and hope. The question is, which one wins? The one you feed the most. So we want to do it because we want to feed the happy wolf. Because he talked about the diversity. And we are very lucky to have in a city like Dubai 200 wolves in such a small place. And if we will start with a common objective for all of these various wolves, I think nobody will disagree with you when you talk about wanting not only to be happy, but to be happier and then ultimately be happiness.
Thank you. When I hear all the answers, and I can go back to actually the first answer of a change in culture, because people are fed up. Whether it's they want to change where they are, where they're feeling, that you went on a journey, and it's almost you want to share this. And in the context of education, I'd like to just shift where you started this answer and shift it into why schools, because each of you could have easily gone into training adults and helping this. I know that Action for Happiness does this, and in some ways we train teachers which are adults, but outside of educational contents, why was it so important? Why did it matter that we actually make this happen in schools now? And I'll ask, because you're very much a practitioner.
Actually, when I started this organization, I was looking about the world really, and I've been to so many countries. I saw the reality on the ground. And then I say, what will make change? And first and foremost to me is leadership. So I started out trying to groom leaders, nurture leaders, that to be what I call them thinkers, warrior, and farmer. So I have this philosophy of that grounded leaders. And then I look around again, historically, what makes change in population is education. Now, we have always heard, and many economies have done that, you use education to change the population, you train them in some things, and then I look around at these days, the present day economies, especially, we train most people to be money-making machines. That's the fact. We can say what you want, but that's the fact. So I look around then, how can then I shift the position? So I say I need to come out at the education system. So at the beginning, because I'm not certified, I just went on to do things, and bit by bit the teachers started coming, the Ministry of Education started coming, and then I ended up talking to 100 over school principals. They came, and for me it's not just talking, I make them experience, making them fall out the pants, walk through the stream. And I say, if you want to teach your kids to be risk-takers, you have to be the first one. You have to walk the talk, you have to walk the ground. So bit by bit, we started doing some education. And then for me, I realized that in my experience, you can't just do one segment, because you try to change a kid, and then they go back, the parents, and change everything. Or they will come and tell me, say, I wish my teachers was like you. I was looking around, so now we have from preschool, kindergarten, all the way to tertiary we're doing. I'm not saying we're doing fantastically a lot, but that's the position I'm taking, and from there I inspire a lot of different kind of volunteers come on board. And then suddenly many young people also say, when I finish my education in university, I want to come on board. So it was that slowly, bit by bit, And I'm very practical about it. I know I will not make change in a short lifetime of mine. I mean, I always tell people, I'm only just a torch now, and I hope to inspire much more people. So that's the reason how I ended up going to schools to do many different things. We need to have a different type of people who understand in the 21st century when there's so much challenges with digitization, urbanization, globalization, and climate change. Then what are you going to be when you are the policymaker, when you are CEO of a company? What would you do? And we need a different type of education these days. And that's how I came to this position today.
Thank you. I'm going to jump to Sir Anthony because something you said and something he said earlier resonated very strongly, which is, you know, we're not going to have all the kids work at Goldman Sachs. And dear Lord, I hope that that is not the objective of all parents, but it seems to be a drive. And I think that I'd like you to expand on that thought and talk about why education is such a critical point.
Okay. Can anybody put their hands up here who was once a child? Put your hands up if you were once a child. Okay. Quite a lot, not all. But quite a lot.
Some still are.
I hope that you are still children, because I think much of this is about finding that inner innocence and childlike curiosity and love of life. And I think when we become children again, in the best sense, we become most truly alive, because there's something about curiosity and innocence. But I just want everyone here just to recall somebody who really inspired you when you were a child, when you were at school. Okay, somebody who really, truly inspired you. And now to think of somebody who truly closed you down.
Ouch.
All my life, I meet people who are adults or children who talk about wonderful people who've opened them out and other people who've closed them in and sucked life and love out of them. And you know, as we were talking earlier, our responsibility, our fantastic privilege to be working with young people is unbelievable, unimaginable. We are members of the most important profession on earth. These children will become adults, like many of you have done, and they will be who you have made them. You have the ability to make 1,000,000 sons. You have the ability to transform the world and the children's children and their children because of your inner quality. You have unbelievable power, and this is why it matters. And to make people happy is the opposite of being selfish. Some people would say, you know, it's a very self-indulgent thing, but anybody who is with anybody who's unhappy, an unhappy boss, an unhappy colleague, an unhappy child, it closes us in, it sucks. Unhappiness sucks life and time and love, and it brings so much anxiety. People who are happy radiate. They radiate life, they lift us up. So our responsibility to be as happy as we can be and to help that happiness flourish is incredible. And your parents at your schools, and I have run for 10 years, Wellington College, one of Britain's premier schools, School of the Year. We have the most demanding parents in the country. Many Goldman Sachs and top merchant bank, international bankers. And yet they have utterly chosen Wellington because we put well-being and the teaching of happiness at the very, very heart of the school. And our results have gone up phenomenally, but also, much more importantly, their children are happy, kind, generous. Many of them go on and do charitable work and volunteering, and for the rest of their lives, they will be better human beings because of what's happening at school. And that's exactly what all of you have in your power to do. And I'm amazed and thrilled and delighted that Dubai is taking this international lead in this area. It's fantastic, it's inspiring. I want a big round of applause for Dubai and what it's doing. Fantastic, up at the top, other nations follow.
Question for me?
Yes.
About what? I was so inspired.
China is also great. Big hand for China.
In the research that you do in China, you look a lot at happiness, and one of the things that is stated in your work is that you're trying to connect China back to the happiness it had, because it used to be a priority, perhaps that has gotten lost. And can you tie that a little bit into why education? Why do we need to work on that?
Yes.
In that context?
You guys already noticed the differences between good educators and the boring scientists. I'm a scientist, and educators always come up with stories and quotes, and also wonderful speeches. Scientists always want to talk about evidence. There are a couple of numbers I have to cite. I'm a boring scientist, I have to cite stuff.
I love numbers, by the way.
That's great. You guys probably already know that every year there are 200,000 Chinese students, high school students, choose to study overseas. Many of them are from middle class, even wealthy families. So they're not going there for better life for themselves or for their family. They're just fed up with the current education systems in China. So it was the Minister of Education approached me. Can we change? Can we do something for Chinese educators? I tell them that there's a new movement called positive psychology, emphasizing developing the human inner strengths, developing abilities to feel good about themselves, caring about other people, and doing something better for the societies. They really liked the ideas. They said, can you come up with some systems to help Chinese educators and also students? So that's how I started with this request from Minister of Education. Also, I have experience with ordinary citizens in China. They said, Professor Peng, you're from the United States, you've been teaching cultural psychology for years. Can you tell us how to make our kids ready for this changing, globalizing world? China is rapidly become one of the richest countries, maybe not yet, but in 5 years will be the biggest economical entity in the world, overpass the United States in terms of GDP. So China is not ready for that role. And they didn't know what to do. They even don't know how to talk to other people. They even don't know how to deal and making good friendship with people outside China. So they asked me, can you teach us the ways that the Chinese can be friendly to other nations, can be, to a certain degree, responsible citizens of the world? So that's the request from Chinese educators. So I decided, yes, I will help you and I will teach you about the positive psychology. That's how I get involved, is the demands of the people and also requests from educators in China. So I was trying to find you a joke, but I couldn't find it. That's my boring side of the scientist.
I'm very fascinated by that. I think it's incredibly important that we do have evidence, because as much as we do like to speak from the heart, policymakers do love numbers. And I want to close with Dr. Abdallah on this question, because many of you might not know this about him, but his PhD is not in education, and he could have gone anywhere. And he started off elsewhere in his career. You have the bios, but he decided to influence education in Dubai, and that was a very conscious decision, from what I understand. And why does it matter so much now that well-being and happiness? You know, you did talk about why in terms of that global thing, but why does it matter now, as there is such a great growth in Dubai and in the education sector?
Look, I think it's been touched on a little bit this morning about the world we are living in today. I think Kevin talked about today about with all the social media and stuff, and how people think the world is becoming a worse place, which is completely wrong, because if you look at your evidence, and if you read the book Abundance, you'll find actually the contrary. We are living in times never been greater than this before. Literacy rate, per capita GDP, you can look at all indicators, and we are so much better off than any era in our time. However, and I think going back to schools and why that's important, why it's in school, and I think, I always feel that the greatest thing, or the thing that fascinates me the most about us, is the human spirit. And the best place where I find that spirit is pure and genuine, schools, young age, because that's as pure as it can get. And if we look around today, and what are we trying to tell them? We grew up on this pursuit of happiness, right? So we tell kids you have to work hard, so you be successful in life. Then, and therefore comes happiness. Fine, you work hard, you set the post goals. Come back again, you reach those post goals. Actually, it's not good enough. Come back again, try to work harder to get to that success. Once you're close to it, you actually come back again and try to have more success. More success. Do you ever pass that? Do you ever get to that happiness? Actually, do you know how it will look like or feel like when you get there? So I think it's so important, because what we want to do is reverse this formula. I believe happiness is a prerequisite to success. If you're happy, you will do fine. You will do very fine in life. And you need to bring happiness. You don't want to leave something so good down the future, and you never know when that's going to happen. I think the point is, we need to bring happiness to our schools. We need to bring them today. We need to bring them right now. I don't know what the future will hold.
It sounds to me, in what resonates amongst all of you, is that you saw something and you wanted to share it, something good, something positive. And I know a lot of people in the audience, especially as educators, they share that value. And I'm thinking about the change in population question and the diversity question that we have, dealing with so many different kinds of people and kinds of parents and different stakeholders who have different objectives for schools. It sounds like each of you rally by example in a lot of ways, and that's what you've been talking about. How does that translate into practices in school? How do you rally by example? How do you get people to that point where you have those champions? It might be tough questions, but all of you have seen so much in your different contexts, so perhaps you could share a couple of those examples with the audience so that they can see what we're talking about. Who would like to start? This time I'll give you options. Go ahead.
Thank you. I think it has to be, can I just ask here, who here is interested in this whole well-being, positive psychology, happiness agenda? Just hands up. And hands up. Who thinks that the schools that you're currently in, whether you run them yourselves or not, could be doing more? Hands up. Okay. The teachers put their hands up, the heads have their hands down. I'm only joking. My point is, it has to be bottom up and top down. I do think that heads are important, because if heads go around with fear, I love that use of the word fear, and the word purity. I love the word purity because children are innocent and pure, and they're very malleable, and that's another reason why our jobs are so important, because if we were teaching in university, we'd have some impact on our young people, but far less than those at school age. So they're malleable, they're pure, they're innocent, they're curious, and we need to be actually as good as they are, and we're not always. So I think it is top-down. If a head has a regime of fear and is obsessed by the targets and rules by fear and doesn't bring life and love into that institution, then the whole institution will suffer. So top-down is important, but bottom-up is also important. And many teachers now, I mean, the interest amongst teachers in positive psychology, because they know it's true. You know, they've come into teaching because they were inspired by teaching. They love children, they love their subject, they love the community, and whoa, you know, and it's you will teach this in this way on this day. I mean, in Britain, we've now got somebody who thinks that we should, every single child, every single week, in every single subject, should be taught exactly the same thing. And teachers are therefore reduced to technicians. This is an industrial model that we had in the West in the 19th century. It's totally out of tune with the 21st century, and teachers recognise that. So it's bottom up from teachers and from parents and from children, who often are much more interested by what they're learning on the internet than in boring classes, not in any classes that you teach, obviously. So we need that. There is, ladies and gentlemen, there is a complete revolution that is happening in schools. The moment has come where we are rebelling against this sense that we have to bludgeon facts into young people, regiment them into dull classes where they're passive and where they are incredibly disciplined and polite. And it's about a liberation, it's about trust, it's about trusting teachers, trusting parents, trusting children. And I think that, you know, I really do think that events like this are showing what's happening. And what matters for everybody when you go away from this conference is what you then do. And if you say, well, we can't do anything at my school because the head won't allow it, or my head of the department, or the head says the governors won't allow it, or the governors say the government won't allow it, or the government says the world won't allow it, or the UN, and the UN says that the Martians won't allow it. You know, but then it's all about what we do and what we do now. And what you can do is change the world. Nothing more radical than that. You can change the world. If you liberate one child, if you save one child, you have saved the world.
Yes, I'm a pragmatic idealist. Now, any one of you who have worked on the ground, you know, ideal is one thing, to get things going is another thing. So I want to give you an example. I think the best situation is like what Sir Anthony said, when the head, the principal of the school, say, yes, that's the way to go, and they really back the team up with real support. And then you have middle management who really get things doing. So I just want to share one real example, because in my work in the last few years, I work with what in Singapore we call neighborhood school. Neighborhood school traditionally has been not the really nice school, because in Singapore we have school ranking system, so the neighborhood school is always not the best one, traditionally. And then of course we have the top school, and then the top school we divided into. So one day we have this top school principal, they more than 100 years, it's a traditionally girls' school. The vice principal came to see me, they heard about what I'm doing, and they said, my girls are good, you know, they give good result, but we have a problem now. We realize as the world now getting more digitized and everything, we go into iPad teaching, and then they realize that the girl, when they saw a butterfly pass by, they all get very frightened. And they're wondering, and this school, let me say it traditionally they produce the top 3% of the female leaders in Singapore. And that's what they told me. I was like, okay, so a couple of months later on Valentine's Day, I went to visit the school, walk around with them, and I say, wow, the school has fantastic environment and architecture, but I call it prim and proper. And when you have the environment very prim and proper, what do you produce? What kind of students? You have prim and proper mindset, and then everything is in a box, you know. For those who know Singapore, the ruling party is called PAP, is also prim and proper. With no disrespect, I think they've done a great job. So I told them, I said, if you really want to change the environment, you want to change the girls, then you have to break the norm. You have to, and they say, we have a problem because the school have designed by a top architect in Singapore, and we had a board there, you know, the parents had a lot of say. I don't think we can do that. I said, well, if you really want to do it, this is how it's being done. And then I went on to tell her and her team, the head of department, the good teachers, I said, if this is a 6 months KPI, don't look for me. Go and look for a landscape artist and just do the job. But if this is a 5 years KPI, I'm prepared to walk with you. But my condition is this. I need a champion, a real good champion to come in, and I need this to happen. And then we ran on, they sent 4 teachers by the head. They were totally passionate, totally positive, wanting to get things done. They came down, see the space, and then they went on. I said, send in your students. So 55 girls came for a 3 days camp. And then they saw the impact. And then from there I said, you saw the impact on yourself within 3 days? Do you want this to happen in your school? And they say yes. I say, you know what, I'm not waiting for you. You have to come in and do it yourself. And from then, what I'm trying to share with you is very important. At every level, you have champions and leaders who believe in that this change is totally necessary. I've seen many times, especially teachers say, you know what, I know it's a good idea, but you know, my principal won't allow, my HOD won't allow. And this is the reality of the ground. So we want to make change, we must fight smartly and happily also, because it can drain us down with all those negative energy that constantly come to us. So this is the reality on the ground. I like to find a few good schools. These days, in Singapore, the Minister of Education say every school is a good school right now. So now we also work with a few schools, neighborhood schools, to try to advance this model. And it's working bit by bit, but that's why it's so important to get one good example that has all levels, and that girls' school became the example. And 3 years later, they really made a lot of positive change, and the students graduated, they came back and modeled their junior students.
Which stories do you want?
This one, because we want Q&A time.
Teacher stories, parent stories, student stories.
Parent stories.
Parent story.
A parent story, because I think that
I
is
love
sometimes our challenge.
I love new parents when they come to me. I love existing parents, but I love at this time of the year to go to the new schools, new parents. So I've said the story, I think, to some of you, maybe not you. A new parents in Dubai just moved in, and she was telling me about her stories in Dubai. So I said, tell me something interesting. So she's trying to describe to me when she moved into Dubai. She runs errands, she gets those stuff, buy furniture and stuff, and she drives during this road which has the tallest buildings all over she has that road. And she said she had to drive. It seems to be like, whatever she goes, A to B, B to A, she has to drive through this road. And she said every time she drives this road with the tall buildings, she has her little kid in the seat, and he keeps looking to the window. And big smile, big happy smile. And then when the road finishes, smile goes off. Comes again, smile. This is not a McDonald's advertisement. So she noticed the kids doing that, and actually he gets so curious on this road, so he starts looking into the roof, sunroof. So one day she stopped and asked him, smiling, what are you looking at? Now this is the road with the big, tall buildings. This is the road where we live in Dubai, think about traffic, and looking ahead in front of us. But what the kid was looking at different. He answered, Mom, Yeah, I'm looking between the buildings, I'm looking for Spider-Man. We just look this way, but the kid looks that way. They are off the ground.
Thank you. And Dr.
I would like to share you with a story about the school in China. 5 years ago, when I started this positive education campaign, so we did a national survey about happy events. You know, what things make kids happy, what things make kids unhappy. So there's one school on the eastern coast of China, in the city of Jiangyin, and I got this response back. I was stunned. 45% of kids said the happiest moment was actually when the tropical storm hit the city. They're very happy. Why? They don't have to go to school. So we decided to pick up the school to implement the positive education program I talked about this morning, the ACE program. So we teach kids how to do this effective communication, that's called A. Then we also teach kids to develop this creative thinking, and that's called C. And of course, we teach kids to develop this ability to be empathetic to other people, that's called the E. So that's what I call the ACE. And after 2 years of this implementing this positive education program, so we did another survey, so we got a response back. So there's one question: what is the happiest moment in your life so far? 75% of kids said, when I take in positive psychology class. So that's a great reward to anybody. So we're so happy about this. I think positive psychology, positive education will change people's views about life, about themselves, about the society, about the world. Will also change the behaviors, how to treat themselves, particularly how to treat other people. I think that's what the Chinese should learn so far. Thank you.
Thank you. I've had the privilege of asking all the questions, so now I'm passing that privilege on to the audience. Does anybody have a question for our panel? Yes?
Thank you. Dr. Abdullah, you talked about the two wolves. I think one of the things that we need to be mindful of is the opposite, which is what we need to work on. Happiness is fantastic, and that's what I preach all the time. In order to do that, we need to fight fear. Children who have fear cannot have happiness. So I think that's one of the things that we all need to focus on a lot more, and that would be something that will yield positive results.
Can I just say that in British schools there is so much fear amongst children who are vulnerable and sensitive. There is so much fear in corridors and in classrooms, fear of individuality, of expressing oneself. And there are lots of great schools that are not like that, but there are far too many that have been. And there is a lifelong scarring that takes place. People think they can't stand up in public because they did in a lesson and they were ridiculed. And I think fear is so powerfully corrosive. What children yearn for, what we all yearn for, is security, a sense of being secure and being accepted for who we are. I spend so much of my time listening to adults and to children whose lives have been damaged because of a fear of humiliation and a fear of being who they are, and it's so painful. And I have my own inner pains from being bullied and harassed when I was at school. Children often don't like talking about it. They won't. Just this weekend, I was with a lady who's 85 on the battlefields of the First World War, and she was talking as if she'd never talked before about the pain that she had when she was a girl of 11 and 12, and she didn't dare tell her parents or her guardians or anybody. It's internalized. So to have schools which are secure, where children can be themselves and that can be free of fear, where they can express who they are, is a truly wonderful, wonderful thing. And it will be with them forever. And that lesson of kindness they will then absorb, and they will want to be kind to others, because so often those who've been hurt and humiliated want to take it out on other people for the rest of their life. I've never met a happy bully or a happy nasty person in my life.
I wonder whether you could describe or explain the difference between the two words, happiness and contentment. Because I feel that perhaps happiness is an extreme, while contentment is a steady state. And perhaps it's content people we're trying to create within our schools rather than happy. Discuss.
Well, this is a very good question, because the Chinese actually have two ways to express happiness. One is called content, or is pleasure, and the other is called happiness. In English, we all use one word, happiness. It could be a state, it's just like a temporary, you're very happy. Could be a trait, like you have this prolonged happiness. So Chinese, I think they are pretty good at that, distinguish the differences between the temporary, joyful moment experience, and also this philosophical reflection of your existence that's called happiness. So I define the true happiness is meaningful content or meaningful pleasure. Basically, we don't just feel this emotion of euphoria and happy. We have to find meanings in that. You can smoke to make you high. You can smoke marijuana, make you very pleasant. The question is that you don't have a meaning of doing this unless you're scientists or writers who want to explore the inner evil or something. But for ordinary people, they really need to find the meaning in all the pleasure in order to achieve the happiness. By the way, there's a Confucius wisdom. I think we can add a lot to this contemporary literature of positive psychology. So I believe that in many other cultures, particularly in Arab cultures, I also look at, emphasize the meaning quite a bit. So almost in all the cultures, they do want to emphasize the meaning in happiness. But unfortunately, in contemporary American psychology, they either deliberately or unconsciously drop the meaningness from pleasures. And so I don't think they actually know what the happiness really means. I hope I answer your question. That's how I think about the differences between content and happiness. True happiness is more than content and pleasure and joy and all kinds of positive emotions. We often talk about it.
Thank you. We've got another question over here, and then over here.
Well, mine was really just a comment to go with Sir Anthony there. Todd Whitaker is an American instructional leader, and he actually wrote a quote that I read the other day that says, children who feel valued actually show value. And I just thought that really went along with what you were saying.
So that resonates with me. I was unhappy for much of school, and indeed I was asked to leave school for organising a demonstration against the Vietnam War, which, by the way, finished very soon afterwards. And I was, well, I mean, I'm not going to claim total credit, but it did happen. And many people rejected me, but a very kind teacher recognised that actually I was just hurt inside. I just felt the school hadn't recognised me for what I was, and they included me, and they started asking me to do things where I felt valued and trusted. And we were saying earlier that the most naughty child in any school, if you give them something where they like that because they feel rejected. So I so love that saying. Can you just say that saying again?
It's a paraphrase.
Yeah, it's a paraphrase.
It's a paraphrase of what it actually is, but the gist is that
where you value the child.
If the student feels valued, then they will show.
Then they'll show value to others. And so much of all of this is about being emotionally intelligent and compassionate, to use the word maybe we haven't used before, towards everybody in that community, treating every single person as of value, and including those who serve for dinner, the whole community, and every teaching assistant, and the head, really no more important than anybody else, just with a different role. And where we have schools like this, everybody will learn and gain, not just for that day or that year, but for the rest of their lives. The schools make people for life and for eternity. So valuing, trusting, loving children is fundamental. Oh,
Thank you. We've got a last question.
And firstly, thank you. A really extraordinary panel discussion and so brilliantly moderated. And thank you to the KHDA. And thank you to the KHDA for putting on another spectacular event. Because for those who aren't from Dubai, no institution, no government department has done as much as the KHDA to transform the face of Dubai and to make it such an attractive place. So thank you for that as well. The challenge, though, is a happy child is a successful child. We all believe it. It's in our heart a happy child will be a successful child. But when parents look to schools, their measure of success is driven by exam results. So what empirically can a school do to show that the happiness of the child will lead to what the parents believe to be the success of the child, which unfortunately can be as limited as exam results?
So I think the person who has dealt with the league tables.
well, other people to come in first.
Yeah, but you have to know.
The evidence is very, very clear from the Penn Resiliency Programme, from the Jubilee Centre in Birmingham. Study after study shows that where schools do positive psychology well, where there is a high expectation of every child, where there's good behaviour, and if you have good behaviour you won't have fear in the corridors and in the toilets, and where the school is really well run, positive, high expectations, everyone valued, your results will go up. You know, there was a terrible, terrible thing in Britain where the Education Secretary in Britain, but education secretaries the world over who are petrified of PISA think that all this stuff we're talking about is psychobabble. You know, it's la-la land stuff. What we need is results, results, results. Without realizing it isn't academic results or this, it's academic results and this. Indeed, more than that, it's do this and you'll get the academic results, but you'll also have much happier children who'll go on to be happier adults too, and happier teachers. So that's the key point. At Wellington, just to give you, as you asked, we went up from 256th Wellington College to 21st, but also, with no school in Britain improved that much, and we were leading on the development of positive psychology over an 8-year period. Nobody could take that away from us. High expectations, good behaviour, valuing each child, believing they could do it, orderly, structured classrooms, getting the best out of them, making certain they were working well. And another point, a lazy child is not a happy child. You know, if you are not working properly, a happy child is a fulfilled child. They're engaged, they're enjoying it, they're doing their best. It's absolutely essential, and that's why parents will love it. Do positive psychology well, the results will go up, there'll be much better schools, we'll all flourish. And I'm so thrilled, as well as being on the most wobbly stage I've ever been on, never in my life have I sat on something like this. And it's amazing that KHDA and Dubai are taking this lead. I've never been at an event organised by another government body in any country on earth like this. It is a fantastic tribute.
Mark is a lawyer. So to have the lawyer coming to a happy session.
I was a happy lawyer once, but it was in another life.
Thank you What I heard from the panelists, and I think this is an important takeaway to all of us who are working in schools and sometimes feel a little discouraged, is if you want it to be a happier place and you want the culture to change, then you start with yourself and show the example. So for those teachers who are thinking, my HOD or my principal can't do it, they won't let me, well, they can't stop you from being happier and helping others to be happier, and that attracts happiness. And that's what I've heard in every single one of these examples, is that we decided, we were motivated, we continued, and then we became an example, and others came to us, and it spread. So it really feels like everybody has the individual power to do that in this room right now, to go away and do more. And I hope that you will do that. So thank you very much for joining us, and thank you for
Thank you very much, our panelists, for that exciting discussion. And as we present them each with a small token of our appreciation, Sir Anthony Selden, Dr. Kevin Ping, Tai Lai Ho, Dr. Sonia, and Dr. Abdullah Karam. If you can stand please next to each other to have a group picture.